Hey guys, Fubsy here, Julian here. Putting a little precursor to the beginning of this video. Precursor, like precursor column. Get it? Oh my god. Okay, so that's not that funny. That I just want to remind you to watch my other video. I'll put the link right here, up there. That yeah, watch the other video so we can talk about. It's a contest to see 200 subscribers and you get a foil gristle brand. Well, someone gets a foil gristle brand. Anyway, and also that in my FubsyDaily number 10, we're going to be doing a Q&A. And you can email your questions to fubsyquestions@gmail.com. And you can email rules questions and just questions about me, questions about Magic in general, questions about whatever you want to ask. And I will go over them live, so you could say. Like, I'll be recording and I'll go through them and talk about them. And yeah. So check it out. Check out the other video for all the details and information. And thanks so much for watching and enjoy the daily. What's up, guys? Fubsy here. You get 2 recordings in one day. You lucky dogs, you. Alright, so this is daily number 8. I don't know that I have a good title for it. I think I'm going to go with good news, good attitude. Something like that. Because I have a whole new attitude. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's not new. But I guess you could say from my last video, my ranting and my raving and my I'm so frustrated and I'm so ticked off and blah, blah, blah and all that kind of stuff. It really helped me out. So I recorded that on Saturday night, right? Saturday night I recorded that right after that game day. And on Sunday I went to another game day, the same store. And man, my attitude was just different. Like, I just felt good because it just didn't, I don't know, that whole just talking about everything, it just, none of it mattered anymore like it did before. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I just sat down feeling good and knowing that it just didn't matter as much. I didn't care what people said. I just, whatever. But I also knew I was there to play some good Magic. And I did. I played really tight. I lost in the finals again. This time I lost to Josh Snow, the scumbag. I beat him in the Swiss, and then he beat me in the finals. Whatever, right? That's kind of how Delver goes. Whoever draws better tends to win. Anyway, so in the Swiss. No, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Okay, so in the Swiss, against Josh, game 1, I definitely mulliganed to 3. And I kept it, and I almost beat him. Oh, I almost beat him. So close. It was one of those like, you kill me this turn, or I'm gonna kill you next turn type of situations. And it was so close, but I just didn't quite get there, but that doesn't matter. I just crushed him games 2 and 3. It was pretty sweet. But yeah, just this new attitude. I just went in there, and that guy that won the game day the day before, he was there, and I we talked a little bit. He kind of mentioned he's probably watching this one. Hey, how you doing, buddy? He said that he watched the video and didn't realize for like 3/4 of the video that I was talking about him, and that's kind of funny, right? Like, I dig it. I think it's kind of cool. But anyway, so congratulations, and I just had a different attitude that day. It felt really good. And the same thing on Monday. I went to Monday Night Magic, whatever, yesterday, and it felt great. I also went 3-1. I lost to Josh again. That scumbag. I can't beat that guy. And it was fine. I didn't care at all. I misplayed. I kind of threw away one of the games. I didn't break out. I didn't go on huge tilt. It was fine. I just continued on. Played some chess. Had a good time. But okay, so before we get into the meat of the daily, I want to give you guys a little story time. I want to teach you guys something, because I didn't think about this very much. So I was watching the coverage over the weekend. By the way, I think Daily 9, I think I'm going to go over 1 or 2 of those games. I think that's what we're going to try and do, something kind of like that. Kind of like how Day 9 does it for his StarCraft games. I'm going to try and analyze that with you guys and see how that goes. Tomorrow I'm going to do that. So anyway, so today, so Daily, gotta get comfy. By the way, another side story. I just got hooked on these. My buddy Les introduced me to these. They are good. Oh, they are so good. Okay. So, okay, so I learned from the coverage a little bit. Anyway, I didn't learn from that so much. Okay, so I'm playing against Josh, right? And in one game, I think I mulliganed to 5? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I kept an amazing hand, one of our games. I kept a Seachrome Island, Moreland. It's like Seachrome Island, Moreland Haunt. Maybe it wasn't that. Seachrome Island, Snapcaster, Delver, Misstep, Gutshot. That's what it was. Yeah, you got those? I'll put them on the bottom of the screen there. Seachrome Island, Delver, Snapcaster, Gutshot, Misstep. I'll put in the mirror match. That is a beastly hand. And I knew it. I knew it was beastly. The only thing was he was going first, right? And that's fine because I beat him game 1, or I won the die roll. Maybe it was game 3. It was like game 3. Okay, so he's going first, right? So he goes first turn, Jataxian Probe. So look at my hand, right? Now, as a Delver player, a lot of times you just misstep like the first thing they do in the turn. You just kind of misstep whatever it is that they're going to do. And so I thought about misstepping Jataxian Probe. And I looked at my hand, and then I realized, and I said it out loud, because I showed him my hand. I said, like, even if you look at my hand, it's going to be tough for you to beat. And I might as well save my misstep for something that's going to beat this hand, right? Like that logic was like that, right? Like, okay, so it's going to take a lot for you to beat my hand. It's going to take you two gut shots and or something like that, or gut shot, Snapcaster Mage, and I'll save my misstep for that. And for something that actually beats my hand. Jataxian Probe, you can have a look. Now, if my hand was like Angel, Geist, 3 lands, Mana Leak, something like that, then I probably would misstep that, because I don't want him to see how slow my hand is. But I figured I got the double Delver draw, so it doesn't really matter, right? So I let the Jataxian Probe resolve. He sees my hand, he draws a card. Then he plays land, and he ponders. And I decided to misstep the ponder, thinking, I don't want him to ponder, right? You have to misstep ponders, especially on the first turn. And he pointed out that my logic for the Jataxian Probe was sound, that it was good logic, but then I did not apply that logic to the next thing, which was the ponder. And he's right. I should have continued with that thought. His thought was I should have misstepped either the Jataxian Probe, or I should not have misstepped the ponder, right? But like, I shouldn't do both. I should not misstep the probe and then misstep the ponder. It just doesn't do anything, because he could still have, maybe he's trying to get the gut shot, maybe the misstep out of my hand, so he can just gut shot or something like that. Anyway, I know it's kind of a random story, and maybe it doesn't matter to you guys at all, but just that way of continuing thinking of, looking at your hand, because I was really proud of the way I thought right at first, which was, okay, he has to be able to have this to beat me. I'm just going to hang on to this card so that it's much tougher for him to beat me. And yeah, and that was that. I mean, and then I missed up the ponder. Shouldn't have done that. But it didn't matter. Both my Delvers flipped, and I just killed him. And it amazes me how here we are. You've been playing Delver for... I mean, that card, Delver of Secrets, has been in standard for almost a year now. Almost a year, right? And people have been playing it seriously for like 6 months, 8 months, maybe. And still, 2 Delvers flipped, you just can't beat that. You just can't beat it. And it surprised me how rock solid that is. It feels very similar, not the same power level, but very similar to that whole turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic. And how for 6 months, or maybe not quite that long, 4 months, nobody could beat that. You just cast it, nobody could beat it. I mean, it was just over after that. It was just insane. It was just insane. I love Delver. I love playing that deck so much. Anyway, okay, so that was my little story for today. And so I want to move on and talk about my process for how I choose the deck I'm going to play. And not so much, I know I'm going to play Delver, right? But not so much how I choose that I'm going to play Delver, but how I choose what version of Delver I play. So this daily might be a little bit shorter. It's late. I got to go to bed kind of soon. But I wanted to give you guys this information. So here's how it goes. So the first thing I decide is I'm going to play Delver, right? Done. Piece of cake. I've been playing it for 6 months. I'm going to keep playing it until it rotates. So I'm playing Delver. So then what I do is I take my list. I'm really happy with it, What I do is I look online, and I look for 3 things, specifically 3 things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Star City Open. I'm looking at any GPs that happened that weekend, and I'm also looking at the Magic Online queues, or the Magic Online dailies. Now, I look at those almost every day, but I especially look at them. I like to kind of change up my deck on Sunday nights, usually is when I do it, while I'm watching Breaking Bad or whatever. And so... Oh, so good. So yeah, so while I'm watching Breaking Bad, I'm changing up my deck. So I look at these tournament results, right? And I look and I try and figure out like what meta or what's happening that weekend in the meta, and especially for Delver, and not only Delver, but what other decks are winning and how I'm going to beat those decks. Mostly I look at the other Delver decks is what I mostly look at, and I take notes and I write down cards and I try and figure out what I think is I'm going to be doing with my deck. I'm trying to learn from the best. And when I'm doing that, like I said, I'm writing everything down, and I'm taking screenshots, and I'm comparing everything. Especially like the weekend of the Invitational, and like or like a big GP where like a brand new deck comes out. Like remember when Yuya Watanabe's like 18 land Delver deck came out, and it was just insane. It was just insane. That was the same weekend as the Invitational. So I'll take like maybe like 8 deck lists and I'll screenshot them all, and at the same time, like I'll line them up one by one and screenshot, so I can just take a look at it while I'm at work or whatever, and just kind of compare these lists and figure out what I like to do and what I don't like to do. Then from there, once I find differences in the deck, and cards that maybe I haven't seen before or haven't seen for a while, the next step I make is I have to try and determine if the card I'm looking at is a choice specifically for that tournament, or a metagame choice for the next couple of weeks, or if it's the new way of playing that deck. Now the third one is the most uncommon way, right? It's to make a change so drastic to a deck that's the new way you play it is very rare. It usually only happens when new sets come out. I'll give you an example. When Jerry Thompson, and not just him, lots of people did, but I'm just thinking of him right now. When he put Restoration Angel in his Delver deck, started with 3, then bumped it up to 4. Sorry about that, guys. I had to pause for just a second. Okay, so Jerry T put Restoration Angel in his deck, right? One of the things that I heard him say right from the very beginning was, he said as soon as he played it for like the first time, or maybe after a couple of matches, I don't know, he said it already felt weird to think about playing Delver without playing Restoration Angel. And I agree 100%. 100%. I'm kind of bummed because I missed that Restoration Angel thing. Well, almost. Like, I did miss it, but I almost didn't. There was a tournament, like, right when Abyssin's Restored came out. I can't remember what tournament. Anyway, and I put 2 Restoration Angels in my Delver deck, and Josh didn't really like them. He didn't really care for them. He thought they were too slow, and he preferred Dungeon Geist. And I was like, all right. So I played them in the tournament. I don't know. I didn't draw very often. I didn't use them. I took them out, and then 2 weeks later, everyone's playing it, and I'm like, I could have been ahead on that tech. Could have played that. Could have played Restoration Angel at that PTQ. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, so there's that. So Restoration Angel is a change that just changes the way that deck is played for forever. Another good example I think is Bonfire of the Damned with decks like Red Green Aggro or Naya, where that just changed like the whole way that the deck is played. So now the second example is decks that oh come on, I kind of lost my. Okay, anyway, so yeah, and then also cards that are for the meta that might be there for a couple of weeks, sorry. Okay, so that's like Consecrated Sphinx, also from Jerry T's list, right? Where for a couple of weeks there, it was correct to play 1 or maybe even 2 Consecrated Sphinx in your sideboard, or maybe a Sun Titan or 2, right? Because decks were, you had to go bigger than the decks, right? You had to go bigger than the Red Green Aggro decks, and that's how they were doing it. They were doing it with Consecrated Sphinx and with Sun Titan. You just had to go around them, maybe playing Day of Judgment or Gideon. But like that concept of Consecrated Sphinx, right? That's good in Delver sometimes. It kind of shifts around a little bit depending on what's being played. So that's a meta decision. The last thing is like a tech that's just gonna win that tournament, and that's kind of like Hero Bladehold, which is in the most recent the DC Star City Open, where a couple of guys were all playing Hero Bladehold in their main deck instead of Restoration Angel, and that's just a choice for that tournament. I don't think that's the correct choice. Continuing on, sorry, my nose is that stupid rabbit again. Anyway, I don't think that's the correct choice continuing on. I think that it was the correct choice for that tournament. Maybe you will see it again next week. Probably not, though. It's similar to that Taran deck, that mono blue deck that won last week in Buffalo. That's not going to happen over and over and over again. That was just kind of a one-time, like, ooh, this is sweet right now. And so as I'm looking at these lists, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking at. Was this choice, are they trying to change Delver for forever? Are they trying to change to accept the meta that's kind of happening around? Or are they just trying to win this tournament? And then I kind of tune my deck accordingly, right? Because if it's like a new way of playing Delver, it's going in my deck. If it's meta dependent, I compare it to my meta. And if it's for that tournament, then I have to decide if that's going to be good for the tournament I'm going to or not. So, for example, the Hero Bladehold tech was not good for the tournament I went to because there were a whole bunch of red-black zombies. Tons of them. And like red-black control. Anyway, there are a bunch of Doomblades flying around. Doomblades can go for the throats everywhere. Everywhere. And so Hero is not correct there. Restoration Angel is a better choice. And Gaseous Draft. Those two are just better choices for that tournament. So the next thing that I do, oh, articles. So I don't really read the articles for their content in that way. I read almost every Star City article and every Channel Fireball article. I try and hit what's it called? TCG Player. Try and hit that once or twice a week. Mana Deprived. But I don't usually pull lists from there, unless there's like a specific reason to. Most of the time, I just like reading the articles, watching the videos. I kind of enjoy it. Or maybe I'll learn Modern there and stuff like that. I just don't think those articles are the right way to do it, though. Not for learning the meta in that way. That's why I'm not going to give you a list, right? I might show you my Delver list, what I'm playing right now, just to kind of show you. But it's not like this is the deck you want to be playing, right? Because it's just dependent. I mean, by next week it's different, or by this weekend it's different, you know. And you have to make the best decisions on what you're going to do and how you're going to play the deck. And so, yeah, so I read articles, but I don't pull a lot of ideas from there. Or if I do, I change it pretty drastically. But let's talk about it. Okay, so let's say I finally find a list that I really like. So I'll give you an example. Was that the one that won Star City Buffalo, which was the mono blue, well, not mono blue, but might as well have been mono blue Delver. Had 3 Talorans in it, didn't have any Geist Saint Draft, didn't have any Restoration Angel, had 2 Phantasmal Image, had a couple Augur of Bolas. That deck looked awesome. Awesome deck. It looked so sweet to play. So here's what I do next. I look at that list, the 60 cards in the main deck, I just copy it. Right? Now people call that net decking and how lame that is. It's not that. It's not that I can't think for myself and so I need to pull this off the internet in order to be successful. It's that this person is great at Magic, right? And I need to be able to get in their head and figure out why they made the choices they made, right? Why did they choose 3 Augurs? Why did they choose 2 Phantasmal Images? Why did they choose the numbers that they did? 2 Mutagenic Growth, 2 Mental Misstep, 2 Gut Shot. Why did they make those decisions? Why not 3 and 1 or 4 and 0 or something like that? Why no dismembers? And so, questions like that. So what you do is you copy that list. Sideboard, a little bit different, because you just have to decide on your sideboard for your meta. So in my meta, Timely Reinforcements, not that great. Blade Splicer is the way to go. If you're running Geist Saint Draft, right? You put Blade Splicer in the sideboard, not Timely Reinforcements, because it's just, you don't need, it's not about gaining life so much, it's just about stalling the board so you can crush them overhead anyway. So I copy that list. I just take a 60, copy it, and I play it for a couple of days. I take it to a couple of tournaments, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday Night Magics, right? Now the purpose here, I'm not taking this going, how good is this deck in general? Because like, I play a turn 1 Delver, it doesn't matter what the rest of my deck is. I'm just going to crush most of the people, right? So it's more about feeling out the deck on my end. I almost, until we get to the later stages and I'm playing like a really good opponent, I almost don't pay attention to what's happening on my opponent's side of the board. Of course I do, I'm looking at their board, right? But it's more about my deck and how it feels and how it's playing and how their cards are interacting together, how I feel about these additions, you know, how do I feel not having Restoration Angel, you know, with this last iteration, how do I feel about not having Geist Saint Draft, how do I like Talrand in the main deck, and how does it feel just kind of in general, how often do I get to cast Talrand and then immediately make a couple of Drakes without having to untap with him? You know, how often does that kind of stuff happen? That's what I'm looking at when I'm taking this deck and I'm playing it card for card. I'm looking at that. And the other thing I'm looking for is how does it feel to play? Right? Because I'll give you an example. Josh is a bad example. He'll play whatever's good. Josh and I are similar in that way, where we don't care so much how the deck feels. We kind of do. It's important because you should have to, you know, your decks you're more comfortable with. But I don't care that much how it feels. I care a lot more how like how good it is. And I'll play that deck. If it's the best deck, I'm going to play it. But for a lot of people, it's really important to see how the deck feels. And if Talrand feels better than Restoration Angel feels, right? That's really important to know. It's really important to know how you feel about that deck. Running it through, and don't play 2 matches, by the way. Play a bunch. When we test for the PTQs, we play 10 games at a time. And like that doesn't sound like a lot, but try sitting down with your friends and just playing 10 games of Magic right in a row, one after the other. Maybe you sideboard after 4 or something like that. I gotta sneeze. Hang on one second. I'm sneezing. Okay, so yeah, and I'm not kidding here. Try and actually just play 10 games of Magic. Like, just sit and grind it. That's a lot of Magic. Think if you have let's say you have a 4-round FNM, 4 rounds of FNM, and you take half of them to 2, half of them to 3, right? That's 10 games. That's right. If you go 4 rounds and you beat 2 of your opponents in 2 games and 2 of them in 3 games, that's 10 right there. That's a whole night of FNM. So just sitting and grinding 10 games is a lot. It's a good deal of Magic. That's what you have to do. That's what we did. We grind 10 games of Magic, and then we write down the results, and kind of so we write down, like, we have a list, like, who started, who played first, who won, and then, like, if there was something notable about that game. If they just kind of grinded them out, if you just kind of beat them, then you don't really need to put anything. But if you're like, top deck sword for the win, or if you say zealous conscripts, something like that, we write that down, because then we look at the notes. And so when we were testing red-green, we were like, oh man, like, it looks like Delver, or not bad Delver, it looks like Wolfrun is losing to a turn 2 sword. Like, tons. Like, that's what's killing him most of the time. So maybe red-green is correct because there's so much Wolfrun and we need to run 4 swords. Something like that, right? So you kind of write down a notable event of how that game was lost or won. After 10 games, check out your decks, maybe make some tweaks, maybe not, and just do it again. That's how we test for PTQs. Is just playing Magic. Magic Theory is great. We have a Facebook group. By the way, you guys, if you're looking to do this, you should do something similar to what we do. Now we're not crazy about it, right? But we have a Facebook group, which our team is in there, and we have a couple of Facebook groups, right? But where we just post things. We just like one post we had was when we noticed that the top players at Star City this weekend were playing 4 gut shots in their deck, not just 3. So we talked about it. We just, hey, hope you guys noticed 4 gut shots, and that kind of stuff. And so we can talk Magic Theory. Then we get together, we just grind games. Tons and tons of games, because that's a great way to get the feeling for your deck. You can't build a deck, play one match, and then go, wow, this sucks, or even one FNM, and then go, well, my deck sucks, right? You need to grind a bunch. So that's what I do, because throughout the week it's tougher to play test. So I just take the deck, build it, and then I just play it in a whole bunch. I don't change it. Maybe the sideboard a little bit, don't change the main deck. And I just get a feeling for it. And then I start to realize, wow, this card just blows. I don't need this card at all in this deck. Or I really, really like this card. I didn't think about playing it before. Augur of Bolas, I'm iffy on. I think he's great with Restoration Angel. He's decent without it. I don't know. I can't decide with him still. I've cast him a bunch, and I still can't decide on that guy. But that's why you play so many games, right? You can't cast Augur once, miss, like go, Snapcaster Delver Angel, or a Talrand, and hit the bottom of them all, and then go, well, I guess Augur sucks, right? Nah, that's not what he's, you have to cast him, like, a whole bunch of times. And then start to get a feeling, oh, I'm hitting more than I'm missing. And make notes of that. Every time you cast Augur, write it down. And go, oh, okay, Augur, hit. Augur, miss. Augur, hit. And maybe put what you have, turns, I don't know, whatever. But just get a feeling for your deck. You're just grinding games. You're just playing tons and tons and tons of games. So you can get better at the deck, and so that you can get a feeling for how the deck is going to play. So we do that. Now, one important thing, this is something that I messed up on that Josh taught me about, is if you're going to playtest like this, you don't have to do it like this. I'm just telling you my way, right? If you playtest like this, a big important thing is not to change that original deck, not the 60 cards. Don't change it at first, at least for a long while. Don't change it for like 10 matches, 15 matches, so that you can figure out exactly why every card is in there. You don't want to get the deck and then go, all right, well, I'm going to bump out these 2 cards for these 2 cards and put an extra land in the deck. Then I'll play it. Because you just changed the deck. You just changed it from what that guy did. So just play the exact deck exactly how they did it. Then you can start to make changes. Sideboards are a little bit different. Now, also, there are different kinds of changes you can make as well. Sometimes you make a whole decision, right? So right now the deck I have is the Wizards deck. I put another Talrand deck together because I love Talrand. I don't know, like, if there were a GP tomorrow, I don't know that I'd play him. Maybe I would. Restoration Angel is just so good. But I love Talrand. I just love playing that guy. Okay, so, and I got the list from an article on Star City, which is funny because I just talked about how I don't use them very much, but I did use this article, and I got the list from there. And he wrote he wrote the article about how he's not sure if mono blue Wizards, if it should be playing the Ink Moth plan, or if it should doing with a little bit of red or a little bit of green or white. And so his list had Ink Moth, 3 Ink Moth, 15 islands. And then, like, 2 caverns or something like that. Or maybe no caverns. Can't remember. I decided I didn't like that. He had 19 lands, so I went to the Seachrome Coast, Moorland Haunt, Glacial Fortress, and 1 cavern plan. And then islands for the rest of it. Because I made the decision that I wanted to try out a lot of cards in this deck, but I needed the white. I needed, especially for sideboarding cards, and in my meta, I really needed the white cards. I needed the one of Oblivion Ring. I needed the Blade Splicers. I needed the Divine Offering. I just needed those cards enough that I went with the white version. And that's fine. So I'm not copying his deck card for card. I just don't like the Inkmoth plan. And he said it in his article. He said, I'm not sure the Inkmoth is very good in this deck. And I just didn't care for it. So I took it out. Changed it. So that's an active decision I made. And you need to be able to make those decisions. And if you're going to make them, stick with them. But make sure you know why you're doing it. Right? You make sure you understand what's going on there. I feel comfortable doing it, first of all, because I feel comfortable with this deck. I've been playing it for a long time. And secondly, because in his own article, he said, I don't know if Inkmoth is the best. You could do blue-white instead, or you could do blue-green instead. So I'm playing the blue-white version. Because, first of all, he said it's fine, which is fine. It's not like he's my boss or he runs my world. But it's just good to know. It's comforting when someone says that. You know, when a pro player says, you could do it like this, and you go, oh, good, because that's how I'm doing it, right? Like, it just feels good to do that. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how I do it. So then when that's all done, when everything is said and done, usually on Saturdays there's bigger tournaments, and I take it to a Saturday tournament. And now at this point, I played it all week, you know, on all these different FNMs, and then Friday night I tweak it, and I change it, and I cut, you know, maybe I add a misstep, or I cut a gut shot, or something like that, depending on what I think I'm going to play the next day, Saturday, for the game days, or for the GPTs, or the PTQ, or whatever it's going to be. And then I take that deck, which is now my own version of that deck, to that tournament. Then Sunday I do it again, or not always, but I like to do it. I think it is refreshing. Otherwise, you know, if I hadn't done that with that Talrand deck, I wouldn't have known how good Talrand is. I wouldn't have understood that there are times when you don't cast any of your Phyrexian mana spell. Like if your opening hand is like 3-land, Talrand, Delver, Jataxian Probe, or Jataxian Probe Gutshot. You don't cast that probe. I don't cast that probe. I hang on to it, and I try not to cast the gut shot, unless I have to. They play a guy, and I'm like, is this going to kill me? Because if it's not going to kill me, I'm going to save this gut shot. Because I want to be able to cast Talrand and go bang, bang, and just get him. So that's what's going on there. That's how I feel about that. So, yeah. That's about it. That's about it for this daily. Shorter, I know, but I think it was still really good. And I'm really excited to see what comes of it. So yeah, let me know, guys. Let me know what how you play test, how you prepare for big tournaments, what you do to get ready for that kind of stuff, and let's chat about it. All right. Well, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate you guys mucho. Make sure to check out the other video. 200 subscribers and FubsyDaily number 10. Like I said at the beginning, and you are all set. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good one.